following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op, in affiliation with the network at bicbp-radio.com.
Welcome back to the Next of Kin podcast. I'm your host, Rich, joined by my son, Christian.
What's up?
How are you?
Good.
So it's Sunday. I don't know, we've taped on a Sunday before, not in a while.
I don't know, but we never tape the same day 2 weeks
We
ago.
were really bad at this.
Yeah, we are not great at this.
I don't know. Like we're both pretty busy. It's not like we're sitting around not like podcasting.
Sure.
Actually, the last few days was effing cold.
It was just,
so
one day we didn't
were just
podcast
like,
because it was too cold.
I was like,
outside,
I don't want to go anywhere.
Which is not exactly the
best. It was like
excuse,
minus
but,
17.
It was like bad
wind
wind chills.
So like I didn't feel like going anywhere. But we're back and Avatar 2 update.
Oh my God.
The Avatar 2 update. We have still not seen it.
It's cold, man.
It's cold
outside, you know.
The water would have froze. I didn't see any point of going to see the Water World or whatever it's called.
Streaming,
the Way of Water, the Way of Water
off.
World, starring Kevin Costner as Jake Sully. The good news is though the Dipson Theater reopened where the Regal was.
Yeah, maybe we'll see it now because it's closer.
Or we're just gonna watch it on streaming. Or we'll go see
Puss in Boots. But
I still want to see. I'm not kidding.
We might watch that. We might watch that on streaming. Actually,
Puss in Boots.
That's on streaming already. So.
All right, I'll watch that on streaming tonight. I mean, I'll do that any point. I'm ready
right away.
For that. I'm ready for that.
Antonio Banderas.
Antonio Banderas. He's a good guy, dude.
He's a good guy.
So, all right. So,
what are we starting with today?
my only news that we're going to be talking about Bad Batch. We're going to be talking about Last of Us, but we're also going to be talking about the DC universe, DC Studios. Before we get to that, I have one piece of news.
They made it super clear what they were doing.
Yeah. Well, before we get that one quick thing, apparently there's some pictures leaked of the new interior of the TARDIS.
Okay.
I love it.
Cool.
It's a very modern take on the round things.
I'm about to say it must evoke the original-ish one, right?
Of course, people are complaining already because people are dicks. But
I mean, at least that's normal. At least like everyone always complains about the TARDIS.
I don't have a problem with someone complaining about the interior of a TARDIS. I don't, to be honest. Why?
But that's a nicer thing than complaining about than usual.
It's not about like, I don't like her because she's a girl. Like it's not that. It's just,
we're not complaining
it's just
about
an aesthetic thing.
It's
a style thing. I don't like the style.
Writing. We're just complaining about like the background
design. I don't like the set design.
It's fine.
But
you'll probably will grow
it's very
on you.
clean.
It usually grows on people.
It's very clean, and it reminds me of like an early TARDIS where it wasn't like, buttons that you had hit with a hammer.
And the big crystal.
Yeah, like
you don't like the big crystal that moved up and down. Which
it looked like I swear to it looked like one of the toys you guys had as a kid, where it was like a fake like I don't even remember what the toy was. But it was like a weird thing, and it had like weird kind of that, and it was like it reminded me.
I know what you're
talking
about. Yeah,
and I remember
the
it
stupid
was like,
minor Lego.
It was like a minor,
set.
like it was like a
with a weird ass little.
It wasn't Lego.
Yeah.
It was some other weird like.
I think it might have been Lego. I think it was a weird. I think it was a weird offshoot Lego. Like I think I know what you're talking about.
I don't remember. It might have been actually like a Hot Wheels thing. That was like a fire from like a Hot Wheels thing. It reminded me of that when the thing went
either way, it wasn't good.
It wasn't good, and it looked just like that. But I do like I mean, I don't care. And it looks like it's laid out very similar to Tenet's.
Yeah. Well, I imagine it has to evoke
with the size and the door and the things in the middle. But the outskirts of it are all just kind of all the way up through the ceiling of the round things. And I still no idea what they do. So that's fine. Which is a line from the show. So that's all I had for that. But 150 days or under 150 days to Indiana Jones.
Is that you're doing a countdown?
Yeah, it's like 147 now.
All right. So
James Gunn went on Twitter.
Start with this. Yeah. Well,
James
not
Gunn.
On Twitter, but
you sent me the link on Twitter.
I guess I showed you. Okay, sure. But either way, James Gunn did his announced like
his clarification, as it were.
Sure. Yeah. Well, like that's if you want to call it that. Let's just I don't know the DC slate video announcement.
The Gun talk.
With which he says like that, he kind of throws aside like everything's been disconnected, as he says. We're just gonna kind of go through this and do all the things he announced, the things of note.
Okay.
One thing he said is they're gonna connect everything, film, TV, gaming and animation, which are 4 things that have incredibly different development periods. So
Yeah.
the idea of trying to like fit gaming, like a story mode game or something, like into like the slate of releases, and also having it be like a contributing like story piece, it just seems a little bit far fetched there. But for now,
Sure.
okay, admirable, fine, makes sense.
I'm okay. I agree with
like,
that. But wait, before you go any farther,
yeah.
they're connected, but let's be honest, DC's always had the fact that there's like 3,700
Well, that's what I'm
Earths.
saying. The old, well, true, but to
So
be
they're
fair,
not
but
all gonna be
No, but
connected
the old Warner Brothers brand
in the
which,
same
which, with
universe.
the old leadership, let's be real, they didn't exactly
They didn't know what the hell they were doing.
no, not even that. I wouldn't say that, 'cause it was just they would give the DC IP to anybody who asked nicely, no matter if they were like terrible
What's
at their
the
jobs or
IP?
not. Go look at the CW and the
What's
division.
the IP?
Just DC in themselves. Warner Brothers IP of Warner of DC's like comics should not have been handed out as haphazardly as it has been to all manner of like networks and like creators without regard for like the characters or like the it at all. Like not that like Marvel or whatever, but either way, like it's just like they threw it to anyone and allowed like especially the CW. CW to me, like yes, I think it was a financial success for a while, but I think that's realistically probably done long-term damage to a lot of characters, like of how they're viewed.
Sure.
I would, because the
I don't
CW
disagree
isn't
with that.
like in the long term. I don't think the CW is like gone down as like a great success. I think the CW is more known from instead of like the community that watches it, enjoys it. I think now it's more known from like the people that look in and think, oh, that shit's god awful. Like I think that's more of what it's known for. There are people that like it still, like, but I don't know, like if there's an idea of like, well, I guess
like when you think
I guess
about
we'll see with
Arrow,
the Flash, like
when
is
you
the
think
Flash's
of
name
Flash
like,
and
degraded
Arrow,
because of like how like because again it's basically a fucking soap opera.
Yeah,
like the
Flash
shows
and
aren't
Arrow,
well written, unfortunately.
the
better
Arrowverse.
ones,
The CW, in my mind, I call it
Yeah.
the Arrow. I think
It's
that
the
people
Arrowverse
refer to
is
it
what
as the
it's supposed to be
Arrowverse.
called, yeah.
And when you think of like that version of Arrow and everything, I kind of laugh because
You're not exactly
like,
very accurate.
it doesn't line up with what I think of Arrow as growing up as a kid, and you know, like he's just not the same. Like he's not.
And it's repetitive
you know,
story arcs, like forced
and
contrivance.
no one dies.
Of, like, no one dies and
everybody's
comes
back.
to
They
life.
die.
Like,
Different version of them.
really,
and I didn't even watch it.
Like worse
but-
and worse costuming, terrible CG on occasion as well.
It's
like,
bad. The budget. You could see that the budget went down significantly for them over time.
Like for instance, like one of the things they announced in
especially
this
when
slate is a
kinda hit COVID.
Supergirl, like a Supergirl movie, which we'll get to later. But like the style of film they've picked is very, very different from like the Supergirl which they picked, which again was like they picked Supergirl that is the same as Superman but girl. Like which is like instead which is like actually making a new character. Which there are better Supergirl comics like the one that came out last year, which they're doing like a whole adaptation on.
Okay.
Which that's actually one of the things I'm more excited for.
All right.
but
Well,
I'm
let's
getting
get to the things that they
ahead of
announced.
myself,
Let's get to
though.
the things that we.
Either way, anything not okay. So then there another announcement. They said characters will play and voice by the same actors across all the mediums. Basically, is the thing. So if like if a character appears in animation. And it's like a DC Studios like property, like that. So that is also a part of like that animation can be in the same like in a Star Wars type of way is like actually like also canon to like the whole thing.
So like Haley, what's her face that does the animation one of Harley Quinn?
Not like them. They,
Not them.
I'll get to that, but
Okay. Well, I was asking for clarity because
anything,
like
okay, anything not.
she was the girl on
There's gonna be
Big Bang
two-
Theory,
there's
correct?
Yes, Kaylee Cuoco, whatever her name is.
Yeah,
Cuoco. There's 2 camps now of like where all the movies and properties are gonna fall. There's DC Elseworlds, which is a long time comic thing, which is like when they do like something outside of the main universe where they can tell a story with a character without the binds of all the
So the
impenetrable
Batman
comic
is in
lore.
the Batman is in that.
Batman, like universe with Matt Reeves, is
Yes.
an Elseworlds property. He specifically mentioned that one. He mentioned
Joker as well.
Joker de la Way, whatever the hell it's called, like
Yeah.
the Joker 2, the musical
Joker
thing.
2.
Which that one I've just heard they're just putting no money into it, and like they're just trying to make a fuckload of money on it, like because the last one did too. Like, and they're like, all right, we're gonna make put even less money into it, make it a musical, and just like fund the studio for the next like decade. Which is funny. But
It's kind of funny
it might
because
work,
like
but we'll see.
I don't know, like I don't care because he's not Joker.
No, he doesn't really. I like that movie a fair bit, although I think it has some weird messaging quirks to it that don't exactly haven't aged the best.
Well,
but
we've talked about that movie before on the podcast.
Yeah, but I think he
not
plays a
like-
really good mentally ill person.
He's
don't
just
get
a
me
great
wrong,
mentally ill person
but,
who's called the Joker, but he's not
who's
our
called the
Joker.
But he's not like DC Comics
But
Batman's
that's why I don't
villain
care.
Joker,
They can do whatever
so.
they want in that movie
Yeah, it's
because you
fine.
know what? I don't need a
think
Batman.
Lady Gaga will probably be good
I
as
don't
Harley
need
Quinn.
anything. I don't need a Batman
Like-
in that. Just do your stupid movie with Lady Gaga and
I think she'll be good as Harley
Yeah,
Quinn.
like
if I'm
just
being honest.
like
She's been good in all
actually,
the
she's
film roles she's taken.
Yeah, she's
usually,
very good in film.
so.
She's a great singer. I kind of feel like this kind of weird mind trip musical, like fake musical.
It's not.
I
It's an
think
interesting
gonna be
idea.
hilarious.
He also mentioned Teen Titans Go, which I think means a lot of the animated stuff that exists. So
Right.
if they do another season of Young Justice,
Right.
which I don't know if that's even gonna happen or not, but that would get labeled Elseworlds.
Okay.
And also that one what's it called? That Black Superman movie, which is Todd Niels Cotes, I think, which is I looked into him and he's actually wrote a lot of really racially anti-white supremacy types comic book stories with
boy.
with Captain America and shit like that. So he's actually I actually really looked into him and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. So that's being produced by what's his name? Star Wars idiot.
Ryan Johnson,
No, the other one. The first movie.
J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, that. So I'm it's a good and
The
bad.
J.J.
So
verse.
good and bad to that. So we'll see what that one goes. But so either way, I do like the idea. Elseworlds is cool. I think that's a thing that Marvel misses out on: the ability to take their characters and do something a little bit different with it, because everything has to fit into the same visual style all the time, which has its benefits, but it also has the option that we can't do an Old Man Logan weird offshoot comic, and we can't do we can't do weirder, more creative stuff. Elseworlds gives DC the opportunity to do that.
I would argue that Deadpool and Logan are.
That's going to be the first
That
thing.
is kind of an Elseworld kind of thing.
Yeah, because it's going to be kind of their journey into our one, weirdly. So that one might kind of operate as a different. But I think you see what I'm saying, though.
Yes.
It gives them a little bit more creative freedom. They can just
The
truck the Elseworlds property
Marvel would
on
call it the Elseverse.
Yeah. I've always thought Marvel should do their own version of that as well, and just because again, Marvel doesn't really adapt comics. They kind of just take the general ideas and characters that are in comics, and then adapt the feel into a translation for the film. Whereas this slate, to be fair, he mentions a lot of
a lot of these are adapted,
a lot of specific cocomics.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate
these are
that
all
he's
really
trying
based
to
on
adapt
comics.
per se literal comics to things.
Well, let me interrupt just for a second.
Yeah.
So when you think about Dark Knight, they are very loosely adapted from the comics.
Yeah, most comic book films are not a comic adaptation, of a line or of a
the
graphic
Batman
novel.
is definitely adapted from Year 2 Batman.
Yeah, that's the closest, but even that's not a direct we're not.
Right.
It's not telling the graphic novel panel for panel in a way that a novel will occasionally
but
do.
I feel
on film.
when you think about the things that DC has had success in the movies,
Mm-hmm.
and I think someone at DC / Warner Brothers, whatever, said, well, why are those successful?
Yeah.
And why are our animated things looked on as being so good? And then the answer to that is because we've based them on quality store materials from the graphic novels or
the
comics.
animated stuff is a lot more
those movies
right out of the
they're
comics.
right out of comics.
Exactly.
There's even I didn't watch the whole thing, but there's a there's a Superman versus Black Adam one.
Yeah.
That I saw that's on. I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched about 20 minutes. And it was fine. I didn't finish it. I ran out of time. I didn't. I didn't even get bored. I just didn't. I had to go.
Yeah, I got you.
So I just wanted to see what it was like, and then I kind of got out of it. But again, I know that was based on. Listen, I'm really wrong. I'm pretty sure that was based on
a lot of
on
the
a
animated
specific
stuff that I've
comic
watched is literally
series.
The new that one animated universe I was watching. I believe the DC animated universe they were doing. I think a lot of that was right out of the New 52 comics. They were taking literal
I don't know what New
storylines
50 comics.
It's in one of the offshoot universes where a Flashpoint event happens and it goes a slightly different way.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, let's get to the nitty gritty here.
So so I do like the Elseworlds thing. Otherwise, I think that basically covers all the stuff, the introduction stuff.
Right.
Otherwise, they're inheriting 4 projects, which we've kind of talked about.
Yep.
Shazam! Fury of the Gods, which this is But like, which also this stupid ass dude in Levi, whatever his name is, that like said some anti-vax shit the other day, which I'm like, oh good. Like let's say that a month before my movie comes out. My first one barely made any money, and it only made. And I'm only still around because we put no money into it.
There are times that I do feel bad for the guys at DC because it's like
it's like we already have so much to deal with, like monetarily, and like
obviously we got the Ezra Miller problems.
Yeah.
Now we got Levi making stupid comments.
And then,
we had The Rock.
Pharma.
And then we had The Rock.
We'll get to him later
yeah,
too.
But shut up, all of you, just shut up and act.
Either way, he says, well, Shazam's always been off in his own part of the DCEU, so that connects very well. That's a direct quote from Ron. Connects to what? Because that movie comes out before Flash. Which he says, okay, and I'll get to Flash real quick. He says resets the entire DCEU, but not really, because some of the characters are still around. We're just picking and choosing characters. So, like, what does Shazam connect to? Does it connect to the Flash? Or does it? So you're telling me that Shazam and the first Shazam movie have been in the other universe that Flash as a movie is going to create? That's what he's saying here. He's saying that the two Flash movies that we've already had have long been in the new universe that is being created in the Flash movie that's been in development hell for 5 years and apparently is inexplicably good, which I don't doubt. But, like, that's what he's saying there. That makes no sense and is the most contrived shit. And to start off your slate with that is ridiculous.
So I watched it too. Now, let me give you my take on it. And I think I said
it's not clarifying at all.
I didn't. Well, I think what he's trying to say is the way I read it as
we're going to keep him. That's basically it. But
I don't think you're keeping Ezra. I just don't think that they can.
I'm not talking about Ezra. I'm talking about Shazam. I'm saying I'm only talking about Shazam right now.
We'll get to
Flash.
Here is the thing with Shazam.
And I'm saying they should have kicked him out.
Let me go off on this. They have this movie, and they feel like somebody in data analysis / whatever, and said,
I mean, it looks painfully generic.
What are the things that we have left that we can do something to or would probably make money or just make enough money that it's worth to try to recoup some of the money we spent. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that this is one of them.
Well, they probably didn't spend any money on it. Like they did the first one,
it has. So. It looks like it's got next to no budget.
Spend any money on it. So
yeah. So
story-wise and visual effects.
So that's why I feel like the movie's just going to come out.
And they're
going to make a little bit of money.
A boatload of money either.
Right. And then they're not. And they probably are tweaking something at the end.
Probably.
There's just some extra thing shot,
lazy.
Some kind of lazy thing that
also,
they added.
it's one of their
and
films.
They're doing that.
Also, it's literally the co-dude's film. So it's one of the films he produced. So it's
right.
like, look,
so
our stuff gets to stay.
Well, but that's why they kept him, because they think they trust him. But also with the Flash stuff, yeah. I feel like the fact that the Flash is supposed to be resetting the universe too. I feel like there's definitely been a change to the ending of Flash. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that Flash is gone at the end of the movie. Mm-hmm. Like, he's like, well, I'm going to be going over here now, and I'm staying in this universe.
That's not what the comments
because
said,
they just, it's like,
but that's not what
and he's going to be locked behind a wall like Doctor Who, or we never see him again.
But unfortunately, that's not what, like, outside, again, people do not want Ezra. Like, that's just the facts of the matter. Like, and I don't know, like, how,
maybe he'll just die at the end.
But that's not the. But again, if you listen to like how what's his name like talks, like not Gunn.
Well, the other
they just again for these 4 projects, they breeze by them so quick. Like, they barely give a second to any of these.
Because they know they got leftovers they got to try to get.
Exactly.
They got leftovers that they have to try to serve.
But you should try
in
your thing to, like, at least, or otherwise they shouldn't be out.
These are going to be great.
Exactly.
Like, eat this pie from 3 days ago. It's going to be great.
So, like, so there's Flash. And again, he's playing, like, I think, not he, Miller, is playing, I think, multiple characters.
Yes.
In
we already know that.
It's probably the villain as well. I've seen some leaks and stuff.
Yeah.
But so I understand why, like, they were unable to replace them. It makes sense. Yeah. But, like, they're probably going to be in for a rude awakening here. Because you have the film that now has to do most of the heavy lifting. A lot of people aren't going to go see based on the star, even no matter how much goodwill he tries to do in a PR thing. Which, again, you can't use him in the PR. Because
there's a lot of people.
Because every single question will be about it. So there's no PR from this dude.
No, they can't have any PR
from him or them.
There's a lot of people that are going to go see it because of Michael Keaton's in it.
He's not in it.
I thought
they cut him. Didn't they cut Michael Keaton?
No. You're thinking of the other movie.
They cut so much. Oh, that's what they cut. They cut the Michael Keaton other movie. That's
I
right.
I think people are gonna go see it because we got the Michael
they've
Keaton.
cut half the cameos.
We got the I don't. Oh,
They've
sure.
said they've cut half the cameos.
Okay,
because
but
they were related to other stuff before they.
But
changed the
regardless of that, I think like they're depending on the Michael Keaton McGuire feel good aspect of this that we want to see Michael Keaton.
Either way,
again.
I'm sure that at like some point it sounds like The Flash is a good movie. Like that's from like almost every source that we've. It sounds like the overall feeling for The Flash, at least in its current state, which is remarkable considering it was in development hell for so long. Like, it's remarkable that it got to a state. But now it has to do. And again, it was probably already going to do some sort of reset.
Yeah.
But like, I imagine that like that great film. It's going to be hard to maintain that great film if you're trying to shoehorn your new. Launch to the universe into it. You're Age of Ultroning it a little bit.
Right.
So, I mean, that is, maybe it'll be fine, and maybe they managed to mesh the two perfectly, but I feel that's a hard thing to do. I think that's all we can really say about Flash for now.
Yeah.
We'll
move on, because we got too much
Blue Beetle, all he says is this, fantastic film about a kid who's a marvelous part of the DCEU. That's the first film.
Because they don't know what it's to
do.
Again, it's a leftover that nobody knows what to do with.
It's the first film in the continuity.
And they must think it's pretty good.
I guess, like
it's going to be...
Then tell James to make it sound like it instead of, like, just giving the most generic statement of all time.
He's his own boss, so he can say whatever the hell he wants.
This isn't a good... I don't hate all the announcements in this video, by the way. I think there's some good ones here. But it's a horribly delivered, like, piece of information. Like,
I don't think it was as bad as you're making it out.
No, I think it's bad.
Okay, well, that's
personally.
an opinion.
I'll keep going. But
yeah, keep going, please.
Aquaman 2, he said nothing about.
Yeah, I wouldn't talk about it
I don't know what, so I'm like...
Because they got a problem with Aquaman 2 as well.
Aquaman 2's been done. Well, I think that'll blow. Because even Aquaman 2 is still a year away.
But
Aquaman 2 has been done for a year.
That's why they have to keep putting
a year away.
Yeah, because they got to keep putting it off because they're hoping everybody forgets about Amber. What's her face?
But so if this movie's been done for a year, how is it? So like, how much money are you spending on reshoots to like make it fit? One, and like, is this movie gonna make any sense? Like in the new like thing that Flashpoint creates? Like, all right. So either way, that's all the leftover stuff.
Yes.
Which
move on to the important stuff.
Which
we've already talked about this too many times.
But anyway, they made no effort to make any of that sound appealing.
I'm getting bored about talking about those old things.
Exactly. They made no effort to make me want to see any of that.
New stuff.
Then they have the new thing, like Gunn, Safran, and a group of writers, 8 to 10 year plan. I think the first chapter he said is not complete. It's not everything they have announced is not the full chapter, apparently, whatever that means.
Okay.
It's called Gods and Monsters.
Yay. Because everybody likes gods and monsters.
Fine, cool. It evokes DC. It's fine.
Yes.
Cool. The first one he announced is like, the first thing, Creature Commandos. And everyone was like, what the fuck is Creature Commandos? Because, like, nobody in the world knows what it was. But, like, yeah, which, like, oh, good, the first thing he announced was the thing that he kept his brother around for. Like,
Weasel's great, man. Who doesn't love... Who wasn't happy when Weasel was live at the end of the
He's
Suicide
a creepy
Squad?
little fucker.
That's why he
should have drowned.
It's great. That's why he's great.
But either way, that's an animated series. And to be fair, the concept of Creature Commandos, actually, once I looked into it, looks cool.
Yeah.
It's like a group of, like, it's like
creatures.
monsters that they fought Nazis in World War II.
This is great.
So I think they're doing a modern version of it. I don't know what that means. I don't know if he's fighting like neo-Nazis then. They're fighting like monsters are fighting neo-Nazis now.
They're going after Putin.
They're going after Putin, apparently. Yeah.
Putin on a Ritz.
Putin on the Ritz.
It's like, that was the name of a bar.
Like 7 episodes.
Oh, let me finish. Putin on a Ritz was the name of a bar on a Psych episode.
Yes, I think I know that.
It was great. Putin on a Ritz.
And this is like this is where he announced the whole like actors moving in and out of like so whatever, they haven't casted the voices for this yet apparently, but whatever actors, well,
I predict Sean Gunn.
I guess besides fucking Weasel, like
I predict Sean Gunn.
Yeah, like the same actors who get casted as these characters will then get to appear,
but they're creatures.
As the monster in makeup or CG, whatever the hell they're doing. So
that's
which is cool. I like that. Then the 7 episodes are written by Gunn.
Michael Caine.
And I think it's in production already. I think they're already starting to animate. Even the picture we saw, like in the video, I think was actual footage of the animation.
Okay.
Next thing was Waller. So I love the first two things.
And I'm looking forward to this one too because I like.
I like Waller too. But
I like the behind the scenes crap in DC.
Yeah.
Because I love, you know how much I liked
But
Peacemaker.
this is just Peacemaker
I really,
season 2.
but
This
I
is a
like
spin-off.
love Peacemaker.
Yeah, Peacemaker's good. I have no problem
Peacemaker
with Peacemaker.
was one of my favorite
I'm
things
just
to
saying, like,
watch.
you're rubbing
I
everyone
rewatched Peacemaker. I liked it so
I'm
much.
just saying, like, and again, this is not even
Maybe
me.
she'll be
I
in
don't
the dance
care.
this time.
I'm not a Snyderverse person, but like announcing like the first 2 things being like the one thing you put your brother in, and then the other thing being a spin-off to the one movie, and then you're keeping around like Shazam, even though his movies don't make money, and it's your property, and like all the Snyderverse people aren't exactly gonna keep giving you that you want to win over. They're not exactly gonna give you the goodwill if you do shit like that. Like.
Okay.
It's
Well,
not
those
exactly
people
like,
are mad. They're disenfranchised anyways. I don't know how you're getting some of those people
the original
back.
stuff. Listen to the last
I don't know how you're
universe,
getting, because they're
and
so
also the
mad.
Shazam,
I'm going to sign a petition.
And I like the Shazam. I like
petition
I
about
like
a
Suicide,
petition.
I like the Suicide Squad a lot. I don't mind Black Adam. I don't know some other ones like Shazam. I've seen once and it was painfully generic to me. But like that era of DC isn't exactly like popular. Like it has its fans that were like, well, it got to do its own thing for a while, which that's a thing you could say. But I don't think the studio liked it, considering those movies weren't making any money.
Right.
Like. Well. Either way, Waller decent. I think makes sense. They're keeping what's her name, which, like, okay, like so yeah. Some people stay, some people don't.
Yeah, I don't
Apparently
know.
Apparently, it's
like,
only Cavill that you kick out, like, and and Gal Gadot maybe.
And whichever Batman you don't have.
I don't know. But either way, Waller's being written by Crystal Henry, who did Watchmen.
Yes.
So like I'm like, oh shit, and I think that's also being created by the guy who did Doom Patrol on HBO Max, which I'm never going to watch, but apparently it's good.
Right.
Just not my vibe.
Well, it's funny we're getting
that'll be a show.
It's funny we're getting a Waller show before we get the
Superman.
No,
or any actual character.
I
don't know. Peacemaker. What?
No, Shield. Before we're getting hit, Eye Patch. Before we're getting his show.
Are we?
When are we getting?
Waller is not coming out anytime soon. I'm pretty
when
sure.
are we getting? Why can't I think of the name of his?
Samuel Jackson.
Samuel Jackson. When
yeah,
are we?
Like 2 months.
Oh, is that actually coming
comes
out
in,
soon?
Like April. That comes out like
I didn't realize they finally
the
did
Secret
that damn
Invasion
show.
Comes out
Because I thought
April.
that's a show that I've been hearing about for like 27 years.
They've been talking
I've been
about
hearing
Secret
that
Invasion
show
for a
for
very
like,
long
all
time.
it's going to be is Pulp Fiction 2 is all that show's going to be.
Fiction
That's
2.
all that's going to be, I think.
But either way,
all right,
yeah,
go ahead.
that's-
Sorry, I didn't interrupt.
Then we get to Superman Legacy. So,
but we don't have a Superman yet.
So he is handing off Peacemaker season 2 to somebody else. It seems
That's
like.
good.
Or at least like the spinoff to Peacemaker.
Yes.
Which it seemed like, well, if I can't make Peacemaker season 2, because it would look a little self-interested, I'll just make the spinoff.
Right.
I'll just make the. Which I don't know. I think people like what's her name is Waller. I don't think Waller is like a particularly like. I don't know. It's
Well,
fine.
she's not the only character on the show.
But Viola
obviously.
Davis is very good, though.
Yeah.
They'll bring it back. They said Team Peacemaker, like specifically, so I imagine
Right.
some of those characters are coming back.
Yeah, I think we're going to get some of those. I
I
think
like John Cena as Peacemaker.
He's great.
I don't know if they're going to bring Vigilante or whatever back, but he was good.
Why? What is Vigilante doing that he can't be in this movie?
I don't know.
Do you know the actor's name?
No.
Exactly. He will come
man,
back.
that's offensive, man.
If as long as they give him a sandwich, he'll be back on that
yeah,
show.
some
He'll
gas
be
money.
back. Gas money to get to the studio to film the set. He's got to mop up at night after he's done.
Anyway,
I don't even know if that guy's in anything else.
Legacy is getting written by James Gunn. It's not an origin story. And he says this is the true start to the new universe, which basically means you shouldn't watch the other 2 things. Like,
but please watch them because we need to make some money.
Why did you say that? It's like, why did you say this is the true start? Okay, so I should watch the 6 films that are also in this continuity that like are before it. Then I guess, like, I guess I gotta wait to 2025 to see the first film that matters. Like, which is like,
we're already in 2023.
It's like,
so,
still, but like,
either
way, he says it focuses on Superman, bringing his human upbringing and Kryptonian heritage, balancing them. It's like, wow, what an original.
Yeah, we haven't seen that.
We haven't seen that before.
Didn't I see that on Smallville?
I don't know.
Didn't I already see this on Smallville?
And then he says some like cringe shit, like he is the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. I'm like, oh God. It's like you are painfully unaware of your audience, aren't you?
Well,
like,
that is Superman.
Is he?
No. What I think they're trying
he says kindness is a world that thinks kindness is old-fashioned. Oh, yeah, kindness was old-fashioned.
No.
Like
I get what he's saying here.
I understand what he's trying to say.
The criticism of
Superman,
of the Superman that they did is that he's too dark. And they don't want a dark Superman. Nobody likes the dark
Superman.
Superman.
Propaganda Superman. instead.
No, because even the comics, Superman's always been relatively positive, even when he's been mad at the American government. And they've done it in the comics.
They've done it less than Superman is. To be fair, Superman has fluctuated in what type of writers have used them for their messaging.
Don't you remember when Superman stole all the nuclear missiles?
Well, there are certainly
Superman.
Stories. There's like Superman Soviet story.
Superman
so like,
Quest for Peace.
There certainly are
Superman
stories.
Quest for Peace. He takes all the nuclear missiles. I don't say vessels like I'm Russian. Took all the missiles and threw them into the sun. Like that was so.
There's a
there are
fluctuation
times where Superman, even in film, could be positive.
Not criticizing Superman here. I'm criticizing the weird like innuendo of Superman that he alluded to here.
I think you read into that.
Maybe I read into it slightly too much.
I think you totally read into it.
But either way, I didn't like that.
Right, keep going. Swamp Thing.
That's not the next one.
Swamp Thing's on the list, though.
I'm going down the list in the order he said it.
Oh, Legacy.
I'm still.
You just did Legacy.
Is what we just did. I don't know. Maybe I'm harsh. Hate me if you want. I don't care.
And they're doing the TV show next.
They're doing Lanterns.
Okay, I'm excited about Lanterns.
I like Lanterns. I'm more into Lanterns than I am to most of this.
I'm excited for Lanterns.
This is a TV. All right, I saw someone tweet this. The Green Lantern TV series is dead. Long live the Green Lantern TV series. Because they killed the one that was in development hell for years, which was basically supposed to be like a space opera developed by everyone's favorite developer, the guy who created the Arrowverse. Like, which I'm like, why the hell did you give the Lanterns to the guy that did the Arrowverse? Like the one franchise that you irreparably did damage 10 years ago.
Thank you for killing it. Because
thank you, James Gunn, for killing that. Fair enough. I don't
know what I can't stand?
Yeah.
I can't stand the Green Lantern Corps. I can't stand it. And again, I was a Green Lantern fan.
Yeah.
He was my favorite superhero growing up. Outside, everybody likes Superman, but I really like Green Lantern.
Yeah.
I was a Hal Jordan guy, and then they brought in the other guy when I was like, I remember maybe like 14.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind the other guy, but they did a thing there kind of at the end of like the Hal Jordan era in the comics again back in the 80s, where then it was like the Green Lantern Corps, and it was all this crap about the Corps and Oa, and I'm like, I don't care. Like, I just didn't know.
It's a little bit convoluted.
And the aliens are all lame. There's the chicken
they
one.
Don't exactly look like
there's the chicken
one. They look
one.
like Ben 10 aliens.
They look like Ben 10 aliens. That's a really good thing. There's the purple girl. There's the rock guy who's dim-witted. Right? There's the one-eyed fish dude. Like, they're just not creative. Like, they're not good aliens. They're lazy aliens.
There's one episode of Young Justice where like the one crappy dude. There was like the two ones that were like Ryan Reynolds' friend.
Yeah.
Like in the horrible movie. Like, they had brought one of them back, the smaller one.
Right.
I think, and that one like died, like saving a bunch of people.
Okay.
So that was actually a good story with him. But otherwise.
Well, I'm good to hear that.
But they kill. So yeah, Greg.
But that's a show.
Yeah, Greg Berlanti's series is dead. Then they're moving forward with this new one developed by I think Gunn and Safran, the two like there's the heads. And this is supposed to be like a foundational show, so it's supposed to like really. This is something about it, like them finding a mystery, like that is going to be important to like the overall arching universe.
That nobody knows what a lantern is.
But it's going to be Hal Jordan plus Jon Stewart, and almost like a
not Jon Stewart from the Daily Show.
And they specifically said
that's a different
true
Jon Stewart.
detective, like as like the inspiration. So like a terrestrial, like two Green Lanterns on Earth, like I don't know, like
sure.
type of thing.
And that is from the comics. I
which
went
is
and looked
cool.
at that.
I can't wait till the murderer dresses in all yellow to evade them, because that's literally like
it is a terrible
that's
weakness.
That's gonna be the crux. That's gonna be the twist. The murderer murders in yellow.
I remember my friends
them.
and I used to joke about that. Like, well, what tone of yellow? Like just bright yellow?
All yellow.
Any yellow. So anything that has a little bit of yellow in it. So isn't green?
I don't
green
know.
isn't it made from
I don't
yellow?
think so,
Green's a mix of blue and yellow.
So
isn't green itself
like
yellow?
It makes a new color.
It's half yellow.
Is water wet?
No, water's not wet, but
Thank you.
green is yellow.
Thank God. Oh, thank God. Oh,
What?
someone with fucking sense. Thank God. Most people are fucking idiots and answer that question wrong. What is?
You're all right over there?
Yes, I asked that.
Would you like to debate? Should we just explain? So anyone out there, water is not wet.
Water is not wet.
Because it is water.
And if you think it is, you're a troglodyte.
Well, I have to Google that. But like, is that one of the characters from The Hobbit?
Yes, that's a
The
decent.
troglodyte race is such a great race. I love their story.
It's like
when
water,
they find their village.
Water makes things wet.
And then the aliens
water makes things wet. You're
yes.
not you're underwater. You're not wet if you're. It's like
okay.
It's like the underwater isn't
Thank
wet.
you,
You're underwater
Christian
wet.
Nye, the science guy.
It's
Thank you so much.
It's so stupid.
So what about
Anyway.
the Swamp Thing? He's not.
Why are you trying to go to Swamp Thing?
I don't
skipping
know.
ahead.
No. So wait a second. So back to DC.
Yeah.
So when
Also, did they
the
say-
Wonder Twins,
Oh my God.
so when the Wonder Twins, when the guy twin
wanna-
turns
I don't
into
wanna hear about
water,
Wonder Twins.
he's not wet.
A bucket of Coca-Cola. Bucket of Coca. It's like and
Let's
Tiger.
have a character.
It's-
Let's have a character. Hanna-Barbera.
bucket of-
That's not a real DC character, by the way. But
Who?
it's
Hanna-Barbera?
Hanna-Barbera was the animators.
Hanna-Barbera?
Hanna-Barbera.
Isn't that a
Hanna-Barbera did all the
isn't that the
animations.
Flintstones?
Yes, Flintstones, Scooby-Doo,
I thought you said they were
Super
a DC
Friends,
character.
all those characters that were on Saturday morning cartoons when I was a kid were Hanna-Barbera. Were animated by Hanna-Barbera, including Super Friends.
Yeah.
And they wanted silly characters that little kids could like, and that's where the stupid Wonder Twins
Block of Ice.
and their stupid monkey
What is
Gleek.
it like? One turned into any animal, and the other turned into just like any.
She turned
a
into the
form
animal.
Of water.
He turned into a form
Or-
of
or
water.
something, or like a
and
liquid
when he
or
was
something, I don't
water,
know.
they needed the monkey to carry him in a bucket. Like
What
they
if
didn't have
he turned
a.
into gas? What if he turned into water vapor? He just died and just dispersed.
No, he could just
like,
do whatever as water vapor.
He's dispersed.
He could just like sneak into things.
What if I
as
like
water
sucked half
vapor.
of him up with like
What?
a vacuum?
Well, then he
And
would
then he
turn
tried to
back
turn-
into a human, and then
And
he
like
would
his
bust
legs,
out of
and
it.
then his intestines would
Well,
would
it's
come
a
out.
Saturday
like-
morning cartoons. It wasn't a well thought out show.
Yeah, obviously.
And I hated when they were on. So nobody, all my friends like, what the f is that? We
Yeah.
didn't say that because we
But
were
either way,
8. We didn't use the f
He
bomb
said
when
like
we were 8.
he didn't say HBO Max for Lanterns though. We're getting back on topic.
We are. Oh,
Yeah.
good. Thanks for.
Which made it seem like it almost made it seem like it was going to give you like an HBO series, like an actual HBO series. I don't know if that's what they actually meant. It seems like they're some of these
What's
things
the
they didn't
difference?
even announce. Well, HBO and HBO Max aren't really the same thing. I mean, they both come out, but like
It comes out on
there's
HBO
more.
Max.
There's
coming to
significantly more
HBO.
prestige to something coming out on HBO than HBO Max.
So does
like,
Harley Quinn?
No, HBO Harley Quinn and shit like that doesn't.
It doesn't
come out
have
on,
an
like
airtime?
Titans and like Doom Patrol and everything else.
Oh, I
DC
see what
is.
you- oh, no, you're right.
Everything else
I
DC
stand
has never
corrected.
come
You
out
are
on,
correct.
on
I
actual
sit
HBO
corrected.
on like Sunday night. Like, That's never happened. If like Lanterns is a Sunday night,
It'll be a Sunday
HBO show.
That will be a Sunday night
Like
thing.
if it's True Detectives like,
'Cause they're gonna
then
spend money.
maybe.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think that will be that.
Next, we have The Authority, which I said who, and then everyone else collectively said who as well. And that's based on he said the Marvelous Wildstorm characters, which I think he thought was going to clarify things, which it didn't.
You have to Google that, so.
And then which basically I Googled it, and they're like they're like the boys, basically.
Okay.
So I'm like, but he says like the way again he's pitching it here. This is when he announces it here. Is supposed to be like I'm announcing it. I'm supposed to make you excited. And this is all this motherfucker says like about this. Like I'm not even trying to be like rude, but like he says there's a group of superheroes who think the world is broken and they want to fix it by any means necessary. It's like whoa wow we've never seen that before. It's like
Well,
it's
go
like
to Home
James
Depot.
Gunn. You literally directed a Suicide Squad movie. You've already directed movies exist now of like a different take on the superhero genre. Invincible is a show. The Boys is in its 4th season. This isn't new.
Yeah, it's
like,
not new.
I don't. It's cool. I'm fine that they're introducing this and that they're merging a different comic universe's characters into DC. It's certainly interesting, and these characters seem to be like well received in like their comic form. Like they've been owned by DC for like 30 years apparently. Like, but
Okay. Well,
but
move
either way,
on
like,
because
it
we
didn't
don't.
make it-
They didn't talk very much
Either way,
about
like
that.
it's just this random still of generic-looking characters, and you gave it a generic thing. Again, I looked into it, and it's cooler than what he described it as, but maybe describe it a little bit like more interestingly.
Well,
you
I want
know?
you to Google
Like,
it. So okay.
It's like it's that.
What's
it's kind of
next?
your introduction.
What's next?
Paradise Lost series, which is based on the comic series.
Real or animated?
This is real apparently as well. This is a
But we don't have a Wonder Woman.
Themyscira, like Paradise Island thing. He called it a Game of Thrones style thing with the Themyscira. And when I looked up the comic, it's like Wonder Woman versus like her mother, like the Queen Hippolyta or whatever type story, where there's like factions and then the island, like which is once a paradise. It's like Paradise Lost. It's based on like a poem, I believe, from like the 1700s, but called Paradise Lost as well, which is a very iconic like poem that almost invokes a lot of elements that like Game of Thrones and like the modern day like evokes, weirdly enough. So like it's a cool comic. I have absolutely no faith in them to adapt this well. Like, the second anyone says Game of Thrones, I can entirely lose all faith that you can make it well.
Well, they said Willow was Game of Thrones.
Yes, exactly.
So we know how good that is.
Witcher, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones itself. Later on, Game of Thrones itself didn't even live up to Game of Thrones, the long run, and that's the only thing that has been Game of Thrones is been the earlier seasons of Game of Thrones and the first season of House of the Dragon.
All right, moving on.
But either way, this idea, I just don't have any faith. They said HBO Max. I'm like, where are you gonna get the money to make a Themyscira?
That's HBO Max.
He said HBO Max. But he also said it's
sure
a
that's
prequel to the Wonder Woman films. So I'm like, so is this what happened to the new continuity?
But I thought we have a different Wonder Woman now.
What happened to the new continuity? So the Wonder Woman films are also, but they're also separate too, Dad, because they're in the past. Even though there's scenes in the movie that are in the modern days. That's the only logic I can think of.
I feel like Chris Pine's going to show up.
And they also said it's before she's born, which in the comic series they're trying to adapt. Wonder Woman is one of the faction leaders versus her mother. So you're doing a Paradise Lost series, but Wonder Woman's not in it. So I don't care. I like Wonder Woman a lot actually as a character. I don't so is Gal Gadot
I think Chris Pine's going to be in it.
Yeah, Chris Pine's going back in time. He's a time traveler.
He's got a spaceship now instead of a plane.
He's got a fucking TARDIS.
Steve Rogers back again.
But either way, you see what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
All right,
I'm getting a headache.
I'm sorry.
No, I don't. I'm just getting a headache from these. Some of these are terrible.
Yeah, but either way, I just don't have any faith that they can do that.
Got anything else for that one? Because I think I need to move on for that one.
That's all I got for that. I think
it makes me want to throw
Batman: Brave and the Bold.
I'm liking this.
I have mixed things with this. One, it's so they're biting the bullet and they're doing two Batmans. They're doing the Batman Matt Reeves thing, his own thing. And they're doing an in-universe Batman. And to be fair, the way they've described it is the Brave and the Bold, and they've said that it's going to be Batman and Robin. But the Robin specifically they've said is Damian Wayne, which is
his son,
his secret son that he didn't even know he has essentially with Talia al Ghul, which is Ra's al Ghul's daughter,
the girl from the third.
Yeah, and he's trained by the.
Right.
Legion of League of Shadows or whatever for up until a certain age, and he's a little assassin. But then
eventually he ends up with his father.
But he ends up with Batman and being Robin, and he grows and whatever, and it's that relationship.
Right.
And he specifically mentions the start of the Bat family, which to be fair, if you're gonna do Batman, you have to differentiate it from the Matt Reeves one, and we've done very little Joel Schumacher, I think, aside. Into the Bat family.
Right.
And it's a concept of a lot of very well-liked characters that haven't really been fully adapted yet, which might be why they killed Batgirl if they're going to try to adapt it into a more, in a way they wanted to have more control of.
Right.
But either way, Damian is a weird choice, though. You've picked the fourth Robin, so you go past obviously the most famous Robin, Dick Grayson, who my favorite. I like Young Justice, so it's Nightwing. It's that's
maybe
the
they're
Robin.
just going to bring
Maybe
that frees them up. Maybe that frees them
is.
up to just bring Nightwing in as Nightwing.
Yeah.
I don't need an origin story for Nightwing. Just bring him in as Nightwing and already just establish it in a 2-second flash.
Which I think, which to be fair, that Damian storyline, even though because unfortunately the storyline he mentions is the Damian storyline where he first gets revealed to his father. Which again, the earlier Damian stuff is when Damian has become a much better character from my understanding, but Damian's a little annoying character at the first. He's a little shit who kills people. He doesn't listen to his dad, but in a very snarky, obnoxious, not exactly fun way. He's not the most likable character. And that's the era of the character that he's talking about. He's not talking about the more recent comics that have toned that back in a substantial amount.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to wait to see.
But either way, Nightwing is present in those comics, but again, we were skipping over the Nightwing's time as Batman again, so we're not doing. Which again, this.
Well, that doesn't mean that Nightwing doesn't exist. It just means
Nightwing
that
will be. I imagine Nightwing will be in this movie. Literally in most of the storylines, Nightwing helps.
And that gives us if
becomes
Nightwing,
a big brother character.
Right, and if Nightwing is good, then that allows us to skip Grayson as Robin and get right to the good parts.
And then you can also imagine that say Red Hood, the other Robin that Joker kills, is back there, so you can do that storyline at some point.
I don't think they'll do that storyline.
But either way, there's. It's an interesting Robin to pick, but I don't. We'll see if they tone back some of the more personality traits that a lot of people have not always liked with that character. But otherwise, good choice to dive into the Bat family, different idea. Brave and the Bold's a cool title. It's like a cartoon comic. Cartoon. I think it's
also a soap opera.
Yeah, sure.
Well, that's the Bold and Beautiful. Never mind.
Then we got Booster Gold, which I don't even want to talk about.
No, skip that.
It's far too niche to me. It seems interesting, I guess, but it's just like this is one of the first. This is a priority. Too many. This to me.
The list,
actually, real quick, because the one thing I'll say about this is this to me was like, I don't mind the niche stuff, but I think this was like one niche too many, and I think Booster Gold might represent the one to me. I don't know. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is the one I was alluding to earlier, which is based on a comic from last year, which he literally said, this is the only thing he described well to me. He said this is a different, more jaded Supergirl who has grew up on like very different from Superman and like the more traditional Superman weird where she grew up on Krypton, on a chunk of Krypton, he says. And like she watched everyone that she knew like die, so she's a more jaded character. So like they can do something with that. Apparently that comic run is like really, really good and like has been really well received.
And isn't she actually captured by Darkseid or something?
I don't know if that's a thing. I know there's certain storylines where like Supergirl's first introduced as like a herald of Darkseid. Yeah. But I don't know if that's what they're doing, but either way, like that's I might actually read that comic because it looked interesting.
Well, I mean, let me give you my take on what I've read a little bit in the last few days on all of this. I kind of feel like
Swamp Thing too. I like Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing's cool. Swamp Thing's a cool ass character, and I'm very into that. That's like a horror-y film. They said so. Yeah, James Mangold tweeted he tweeted some like fan art for it or like or concept art. So he might direct that. That's
I'm
cool.
pretty sure he's directing that.
That's the best one there. That's the.
He's got another movie called Going Electric, which is a Bob Dylan movie. Yeah. And then he might be doing
some really cool Alan Moore.
I suppose he's doing a Buster Keaton thing too.
There's a lot of really good like Swamp Thing, dark, deep.
Let me give you my take on this. Like if I'm sitting around and I'm the DC guys, and I'm in the room and we're having our meeting, and they're like, okay, so what do? Do we come out with these like Melba Toast versions of these shows and characters and movies? So do we do Red Tornado? Do we do do we do Justice League? Let's just forget about that for a while. Let's stop trying to
I think there are more movies that are to be announced. Apparently, there's more properties here. So
I just kind of feel like they want to do. Yeah. They figured like we've already tried. You know, we're not going to be getting like a cyber dude anytime. We're not doing any of that for a while. Like, I feel like they want to just kind of like, that's why we're not really, I'm not even sure we're getting like what Wonder Woman we're getting. Superman, we don't know what we're doing yet. Like, I just kind of feel like they want to kind of they don't want to do like a Superman movie where he shows up from the planet Krypton and he fights Lex Luthor because we've seen that now. So I think they feel like they've got to try to go in a different direction and try to work maybe from the outskirts in instead of going from the inside out because they can't do the inside because they just did the inside and it's confusing. So let's work from the outside in and try to rebuild.
I just feel like the style of movie they described for this Superman film, like I don't know, I just don't see how you. I think any movie you introduce a new Superman in, and especially like the storyline they've given, which is just like with the description they've given, that just feels like a Superman, intro. It just feels like, it just feels like an origin story.
Just tell me Superman's already...
Is he going to be like the most prevalent superhero on the planet?
How many times on this podcast...
Metropolis?
How many times on this podcast have we said, I don't need to see Uncle Ben die. I don't need to see pearls crashing into the alley. So we all know... Is there anybody that's going to go to a Superman movie that doesn't know that he was born on the planet Krypton and he was raised in the Midwest? Do I need... don't show me that again.
I just figured...
Just don't show it again. I don't need it.
For this, because Superman is your biggest. Okay, I think what's interesting to talk about now is now that we've seen all this and what some of the inevitable issues that they're going to run into. Because again, DC is Warner Brothers could release 2 films last year, at the end of the year. That was what the financial state they were at. Don't get me wrong. Corporations, when they say they're broke, it's a very nuanced definition of that, and money moves around in various ways. But and they'll get bailed out or whatever. But either way, the money is not free flowing at Warner Brothers these days. So they're making a lot of ambitious concepts here, a lot of things with very different development times that you're trying to connect all at once. Because again, now what you're doing as well is not only these are multiple films, a lot of which James Gunn and what's the name seem to have a lot of hands and a lot of different things, which I don't know. Don't spread yourself too thin. You got to hire the right staff and identify the right people to develop these properties. I do. What can I say? Let's start with what we like about this slate, I guess. Let's be positive first before we.
Okay.
Like my properties, the things I really was into. I like the Supergirl movie. Like that idea sounded good.
Right.
Swamp Thing, I'm really into. I like Swamp Thing as a character. Like I just said. I'm for Elseworld stuff. The Batman. I'm really into the Batman universe.
I love the Batman.
And I'm actually kind of into that Black Superman thing now that I looked more into it. Brave and the Bold. I'm interested to see how they adapt that. With the Bat family. I like Batman. Like I'll take 2 Batman movies. And one of my problems I think is going to be are you 2 Batmans with 2 different continuities coming out? You know what I mean? That could be an issue.
You just have to space it out right.
You have to, yes, that's exactly. There has to be very incredibly when they're appearing and if he's appearing in another thing.
The Matt Reeves Batman 2 is already in production, right?
I don't think so. I
feel like it's a year. It's under a year.
Pre-production.
I think it's within a year.
I don't think so. I think it's pre-production.
I think it's the guy that I was on the podcast with yesterday said that it's going to be out.
I'll look it up right now.
So we'll keep going.
Say what you like. Say what you like.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of with you. I'm just interested.
I think Creature Commandos could be cool. The concept was good. But.
Well, I'm just going to remind everybody that's listening.
Yeah.
October 3rd, 2025.
So yeah.
So we got a while to go. The one thing that I will say is that
Superman. Okay.
Guardians of the Galaxy came out, and everybody was like, "What? What is that?"
I'm not saying these niche stuff can't be good.
So if you do it right.
James
and you
Gunn's
have the right directors. That's what my we don't really know. We know James Margolis, we know a few of the directors, we know a few of the writers. So when I start seeing more in the terms of the way of directing, then I'm going to be then I can answer the question where I think this is going to go, and then maybe the problems will take care of themselves with the right directors.
Yeah, maybe.
So
But yeah, just certain things. I think it's very convoluted. I think it is. I don't care. As who I am, with the type of interest I have in this sort of bullshit, that doesn't really matter. But to the general public, it does.
Well,
a great deal.
Just make a good movie, and it'll take care of itself.
That is true, but
just make good movies.
Audiences don't like being confused. And that's not a thing. They don't. They like some level of
But then, if that's the case, then you can't ever.
Yeah,
then you can never even have Nightwing because
be
everybody thinks 90% of the people out in the community that aren't going to see this movie anyway think that the only Batman is Dick Ward or whatever his name is
Well, no, but listen.
Grayson, whatever the Ward was the actor. What I'm saying is
they
think there's one Batman. They don't even. I mean, one Robin. They don't realize there's 4 Robins.
As into it as we are, in doing this podcast or whatever. We have an idea of the separation of things, but better than when Marvel, when I was younger, I was X-Men's being made by the same people that make because people don't think about it like that. They don't think about all the little businessy stuff behind. They just want to see a movie. They just want to see
So just make a good movie then.
But okay, but what's gonna be interesting is we're gonna have 2 Batmen at the same time. Which are they gonna compete with one another? Are the fans of one going to develop animosity towards the fans of the other? Which
they're gonna be a year apart.
But still,
they're gonna be a year apart.
I would say the Superman, what you've announced, did very little to quell, skeptics, and if anything, just I think this doesn't do anything to put out fires very much to me, is what I'm saying. It gets a little bit of excitement, and it's certainly a thoughtful, at least to them. I don't doubt that they believe that these are really all really good ideas. I question if some of them are a little bit too niche.
Well, again, I feel like they're going to work from the outside back into the middle.
Guardians of the Galaxy certainly worked, though. But again, I feel like
they
there's
have
almost
to work,
too many Guardians properties-esque here.
But I do feel and that's some of the criticisms of Marvel right now, is that they're off in the weeds too much.
A little bit.
But I feel like they can't go right back and say, here's a new Aquaman, and here's a new this, and here's a new that, because that's more confusing.
Yeah, that movie is really
more confusing to me.
But again,
if you suddenly have a new Wonder Woman, and then you're doing a new thing with Wonder Woman, and then you're doing a new new
doing, like, the
Flash,
prequel,
and then
and
you're
then
doing I feel like they've got problems. So they're going to work. They've got to start making some
Like, I
movies and
specifically
building some
wrote,
interest
like-
in the universe. And I don't think any of these movies are going to be like. They're not
don't know if
supposed
it's
to
gonna be
be,
hits.
but I don't think they're supposed to be big movies. I don't think they're supposed to be like Aquaman or Iron Man 3 or something. I think that these
Shazam,
are
they don't
smaller
expect to make
movies.
money from Shazam's in its own often its own thing. I understand the weirdness of that situation and why, as weird as convoluted as the explanation he gave was.
Right.
I understand why they're just pulling that in and doing it.
Right.
It makes sense. The Cavill situation, like.
Well, people got to get over it, or
people
just
are going
don't
to have to get over it. But
get
again,
over it
like,
or not,
but
or
you're-
just not talk about it because you don't care.
But it seemed like they had kind of understood that. I thought, you know what the way to be over with it was? Actually, here's my good thing: is anything of what we had worth keeping?
Well, I think that's what
Truthfully.
they've decided.
No. But like, even I mean everything. I'm like, was like everything that you've had, because you've only kept stuff that was around for the last like 3-4 years.
Do you really honestly think that Jason Momoa or whatever his Momoa is going to be around after this Aquaman movie?
Yes, they've been talking like he will be.
I don't think
they've been talking like they will. They've been talking like he's doing Aquaman 3.
I just
Like
I
they're
don't know
finishing the trilogy.
I don't just know if I'm going to get that. I just don't know.
That's what they've been very much talking like. So this idea of like,
And we don't think that Wonder Woman's back.
and people are just getting
And
mad.
she was
that
very popular.
Yeah.
Until they gave her a terrible second movie.
And again, and I'm not saying that these people. This isn't me arguing that these don't just dishear what I'm saying or mishear what I'm saying. This isn't me saying that these people that are complaining are like in the right. I think their grievances are very petty, and a lot of them are long-winded grievances from years ago, from the Snyder stuff years and years ago. But they exist. They're a large portion of your fan base that have been upset with your properties, that obviously haven't been going to see them in some capacity, and you've done nothing to like they were the problem. They were a problem that you needed to solve, and they've just been like, you haven't done anything to
I'm
make
gonna say
them,
gonna say
you know what I
one.
mean? Maybe I'm wrong. But
I'm going to
that's
say
my,
something that I think counters that, and I think I've got a very good point. I think there's a bunch of people that had the exact same reaction when they announced who was playing the Batman.
But I think there's
No. Let me finish my point. Go back and look at the Twitters and all those people when they said he was in that movie when he's a vampire, and I don't want him playing the Batman. Then they went and saw the Batman, and guess what? They all changed their tune because everybody thought he was effing brilliant, and they loved that movie, and that movie did really, really, really well financially, and it's critically well received. So those same people that said, I'm not going to see the Batman because it's starring one of those people from the book about vampires.
That's very different. That feels like a much minor.
But
much
no,
more minor. It
come
does.
on.
Yes, it does.
People were freaking out. Like, why did they cast
Because
him?
want to know why? Because people are very dumb.
But,
and
those same people,
no,
changed their tune
yes,
when the
but think
movie
about it like
came
this.
out.
But there's the difference between like seeing movies, like, because the only thing you get of a movie, of like, if you knowing it's good or not, are a couple trailers. Like in the meantime, what you do get for an actor, you do get people that actually are informed over time, breaking down stupidity and saying, "Go watch The Lighthouse. Go watch the 5 or 6 actual good
none
films."
of those people. None of those people did that.
Here's what I'm saying.
None of those people watched
you're
those
wrong,
movies.
No, they didn't watch them though. But I will tell you, the average thought when it first was announced, you're right. But by the time the Batman came out, that narrative was long dead.
That's feeding into my point.
No, it doesn't.
Like, because most of those people didn't know any of those movies. They just heard
but
that Batman was good.
But enough people with
And
like
then they
enough
went to see
the knowledge of him doing multiple
So
things.
if they cast
since
a good
then,
actor to play whoever, and they get a good director,
Yeah.
and the trailer's good, then everybody will be over it.
I'm not denying that. I'm just saying that like you've done nothing in like the.
Well, there's nothing to do
meantime.
yet. What are they? They can't do. They have nothing to show me.
I just felt like it was such the things they've saved make no sense to me. I don't understand why they've done the hassle of like saving the things they've saved. That's what I'm saying. I'm thinking like the overall level of like confusion and the infighting and like the.
I'm
like,
not
the
sure
I
what
think
they've saved that much.
You haven't because again, the idea was to come in and stabilize the community as well. That's part of their job because the community is so toxic. and shattered and broke it up into their own little corners.
You already answered your own question why they saved.
Again, they have to just make good
why
stuff.
They saved,
but, do we expect DC to make everything
why
great?
They saved Shazam 2 and why they saved the other movie? Because they produced them. They're involved in the money making. They're not going to cancel their own movies because they believe in those projects. So those are the answers to those questions.
They've accepted the short-term financial over the long-term health
of
their franchise. Realistically,
there's also, and you know what, and
some people aren't going to care. Like I don't care about the little continuity things.
You talked about this earlier because now everybody but you know what the thing is, and the toxic culture of all our social media and all this shit is just so obnoxious because
it hurts your franchise to have it.
So but now they're like they hate Marvel. Now they hate this and they hate nobody likes anything anymore. And it's just
guess what
and
guess what Marvel. They fucking once Marvel started to fucking not fail, but like Marvel didn't make as much money this year. A lot of the weird stuff that happened behind the scenes with like once that they started making those decisions, guess what? A big change happened in the top of Disney to a lot of these things, and now Marvel's able to do what they want again, and the panel that was controlling them are gone because again, it didn't work. It didn't help the audience.
Well, then my argument is that
the
Warner
MCU
Brothers
went from being seen as kind of a good blockbuster.
Then
series
fine, DC was given
overrated.
the keys to the kingdom. And they're not going to be bothered anymore, supposedly, because that one thing James Gunn did say, or was it the other guy? He said that they screwed over Henry Cavill.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They screwed him over. So and they burned the bridge with him. They burned the bridge with Matt Affleck. They burned all these bridges, and none of these jerks are coming back. None of those guys are coming back because they're I'm sure Snyder. I'm sure James Gunn tried to talk to some of them, and for whatever reason, I'm done. I'm moving on, and that's.
I'm just saying they've stepped on a lot of landmines.
Yeah, well,
already.
But
that's all I'm saying. And again, I don't care. I'm not mad at anything, but I'm just saying they've done things that are very obvious to me, like they could have avoided.
And it comes down to something we're going to talk about as we move
little
forward.
Things they've said, just little comments, and I do appreciate they're trying to be a little bit more transparent,
right?
With people Gunn shoots down rumors and stuff all the time, and tries to interact and does little polls and stuff on Twitter. And I like James Gunn. I like his films a fair bit. I'm not trying to be overly harsh here. Right. I just think they've they sounded like they understood. How deeply fractured and how deeply unliked and how deeply confusing their universe was. And to me, this announcement does very little to make it seem like it seems like they say we're going to connect everything, but nothing here really seems like the idea of them saying we're going to connect everything and make it make sense, and then saying we're going to do a Wonder Woman prequel.
We're an hour into this one topic, so I don't want to be much longer.
Yeah, I'm almost.
So we got 1 minute. So I want you in 20 seconds. If you're James Gunn, what do you say differently in that press release? Press conference or whatever he said. How do you word it differently?
Shazam's the last Shazam movie. I do tell everyone Shazam's the last Shazam movie. You don't got to see it for a while because we're going to be focusing on releasing things that are more important and that people want to see more. Because Shazam made $350 million. Even if it made you money, there was also a rumor that they're going to do 2 movies and 2 shows a year. One of them's going to be Shazam, in the future. He's a character that we got to keep around.
So ultimately, but they're not going to come out and say this movie's probably not going on.
Ezra's done after Flashpoint, cool. They say that because people don't like him. Instead, you set the other guy out in a less public manner to do interviews, which is not as common as this. Okay. And you had Safran go out and say we're going to keep him. Maybe we'll see, or keep them. Maybe we'll see how their treatment goes, even though he's literally committed crimes. We still been talking about Winona Ryder shoplifting since someone tweeted this Winona Ryder, we've been talking about shoplifting for 20 years, and Ezra Miller can do God knows how many crimes, and he doesn't get, and they don't get fired.
Right. Let's move on.
Yeah, either way, just a lot of landmines. Either way.
All right. So what else you got?
What are we talking about? Last of Us? Want to do Last of Us?
Well, let's just quickly. Bad Batch was another. I thought that the last
better episode.
Episode 4 was that 4 or 5? What episode
6.
was that?
Around 6.
Whatever that last episode was.
They brought back Gunji.
The Tribe.
I think it's episode 6.
Yeah, I think if you're, I was excited, and I'm not even as big of a fan of Gunji, but I was super excited that we got some cool Wookiee stuff. We got some cool Gunji stuff with a lightsaber.
Yeah,
I like the fact that this has been building up, and what I was looking for was that we were going to build up to something where they had a help, and we're getting into that Magnificent Seven kind of thing where they got to start helping out, and they jumped in there, got to start helping out.
Yeah, I like their loyalty to the Wookiees a little bit.
And
Echo,
they all
Echo especially since the Wookiees were our allies. We got to help them.
And we're gonna and I love that
Echo and Gunji, not Echo. what's her name? Omega and Gunji were pretty like their relationship is really cute.
I just liked all of them. This saying like when Hunter said, "We're going to stay and we're going to help you because we owe you that."
And the next episodes we're getting this week. We're getting a 2-parter. Like they're both coming out this week, and it's like the Clone Conspiracy, I think it's called, and then like Spoils of War or something. I don't know, but either way, we got a 2-parter. It seems to be much more like story related.
So this week we have the first part of a 2-parter.
No, I think they both come out. I think we get 2 episodes.
They're dropping 2 episodes
so,
this week.
So I really like when they do that. So hopefully we get a nice. This episode was good. Introduced Gunji, which is like not an important character to canon, but a fun character from Clone Wars.
If you remember what I said in the last week's podcast, my concern was that they did a couple episodes that were kind of like slowing things down, and now I feel like we're getting into where this season's going, so I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, Bad Batch and a Jedi are always a fun little combo too.
I like Gunji, and I like the fact that we kind of know what happened to Gunji now.
Yeah, we'll see if like how. Again, Kashyyyk goes through quite a bit during the 20 years of the Empire, so like, no guarantee that he's like still alive like by the end of the war or whatever. But
he's also been running around. He's been running around in hiding. Like,
but he's been survived. He survived pretty long as a youth. He's probably going to be a lot safer as a Jedi on Kashyyyk. Honestly, Kashyyyk's pretty like just go deeper into the woods. Like the Empire never controlled all of the Empire never controlled all of Kashyyyk. Like in that sense, like they couldn't like operate in like. Scrutinize like every inch of territory. Like there were rebels on Kashyyyk the entire time, like hiding in the woods in various ways. Right. So
no, I like that. Well, that's why originally Return of the Jedi was going to be set on the Wookiee planet, but then they just cut back because of
this arc is
because
from,
of the production costs.
This arc is from like the old like season. Like there was originally it's adapted at least, or like they took pieces from an old arc that was like an unfinished one where the Bad Batch would have went to Kashyyyk during the Clone Wars and then fought that's why the tanks are separatist tanks that are like the models changed and stuff because they're literally like in the initial like story they were fighting droids. So like instead they have adapted ones with like Trandoshans like driving them around.
Well, let's just kind of.
That was cool. And the bugs were from KOTOR, the Knights of the Old Republic.
You got to say for an animated show, like the bugs killing that one guy.
Yeah, that was
like
the music was really like creepy too.
I was like whoa, like taking them to their web. That's pretty bad.
But yeah, that was fun.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that episode.
That was some Lord of the Rings stuff there with the giant spiders webbing up a dude.
Lucas was against the idea of a Wookiee Jedi for many, many years, but he relented with Gunji. So, which I think was a little bit related to the whole like Wookiee putting their hand on the.
I like just the one tooth sticking out.
Also, I always appreciate when they do a deeper Force connection, like when they with the trees and like they had a little bit of like connecting to them.
I like that it led into like kind of some lore of the planet.
I think that goes back into why like. Lucas almost didn't want a Wookiee Jedi because there was almost he thought of that the Wookiees had something different with like the Force almost.
It's the Force on a planet. Mm-hmm. The trees have the Force.
Yeah. Other way. Last of Us now.
So all we got left really is Last of Us, and this
really really good episode. Like one of the best episodes of TV in a while. I would say since like the best thing I've watched on TV since like the Viserys getting up like episode of House of the Dragon.
I'm gonna.
Or maybe the Andor finale or something.
So like. I'm gonna like because I'm gonna say something that I want to say.
Yeah, you go.
Because I grew up in an era of television when if there was a gay character on a show, if it was first of all there were no female gay characters ever on a TV show. If you happen to get a male gay character on a TV show, they may never actually said it. Out loud, and they were always incredibly flamboyant.
Yeah,
they
were used as a joke, essentially.
They were a punchline. They were usually the funny character, and I feel like they almost were always portrayed by a gay character, actor, and usually like all of them have talked about how humiliating it was. Even if they themselves were flamboyant in whatever sense you want to describe that, and I obviously as I look back on it, it's not a great time of television that we should be proud of. There were some groundbreaking things in that for sure, but now we're at a point in human history where that we need to portray these characters, and I read so much this week, very positive stuff and some very negative stuff. And here's what I want to say about episode 3,
I think it's been mostly positive.
It's been mostly positive, and I love the story of how the actor Oberman ended up getting into the role, and about his wife and Kurt Opperman.
His story was really nice,
his wife told him to do it, and all that stuff. But here's when it comes right down to it, and I'll finish my point. I've watched a lot of TV for a lot of years, and that episode, forget the fact that it's The Last of Us, forget that it's on a streaming service, forget it, on any platform, that is a tremendous episode of television for any genre, and I watched that episode again because there's moments of humor, there's just humanity in that episode. And the things that I didn't like always about Walking Dead and shows like this is that they don't have any humanity.
Yeah, so
and this show
mm-hmm.
had tremendous humanity. It reminds me of an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation called The Inner Light, where Captain Picard lives his life kind of in an illusionary thing. And it's an incredible episode, and it's perfect episode, and I would rank this episode in terms of sci-fi fantasy up there with the best of them.
Mm-hmm. Like, this is it's so unexpected too. Like they're doing because this is very, very, very different. I've played the game. It's very, very different from the game level that it's an adaptation of. In the game, you meet Bill. Like you judge your play as Joel and Ellie or whatever, and you meet Bill, and the main point of the mission in that is like the main centerpiece is almost like, well, you're fighting zombies, like you're going throughout like a town that he has all booby trapped. It's very similar, a little bit more like a downtown-y type vibe though, like more brick and mortar like type buildings, like that sort of thing. Whereas this is more like he has a house in a little neighborhood, like some houses down the street. He's fenced off, all this stuff. But in the game, like you meet him and like Joe is calling like a favor for like a car battery, basically, and you see him mention like Frank a couple times as like an old partner that like he worked with, and they're not really together anymore. They say, and they're not working together anymore. And you find Frank at the end, and Frank is like dead. Frank is bit, and he kills himself, like he's hung, and he had the battery he stole it from the other guy, and there's a note just like the note that's left in this episode, but it's completely different. It's written by Frank and it's written to Bill, and like in that like note and with Frank's reaction, you allude to the idea that they were probably together. Like it was very easily, it was always meant, if you talk to the creator of the damn, like you talk again, it's like,
the creator said point blank.
If you want to talk about agenda, it was a little bit what you were getting into, because people, just like any time that people of color do something good, like Black Panther, or like a centerpiece in something, or like when a gay character is a centerpiece in something, or even women in like certain cases, like all that sort of thing. This got like review bombed, which like a series of 1-star reviews, and you can go read them yourself on IMDb. Those reviews are mostly public, and like you can find a lot of vitriol in those 1-star reviews. They're not objective analysis of like an actual film. It's just this blind hatred because of this idea that it's being shoved down their throat. Now, Last of Us is a game that came out in fucking 2013, and like the idea of like this character Bill being a gay character, they changed the story a lot, but the idea of him being gay is very easily extrapolated out of the story. And they honestly, the story that's told in this episode, it fits the overall narrative of the literal entire story, the themes and ideas of Last of Us so well, like especially like that, how crucial they made the new note that Bill wrote to Joel when they found them, essentially at the end. Like that, the importance of that note and the specific wording and the stuff that will come into play. Anyone who's not seen the game doesn't know, but if you do, like, there's so much that tells you. Like if you've played the game, like, and you didn't understand that like that dude was gay, I don't know what to tell you. You're gonna be, I don't know how you played the games anyway, considering on something else that is gonna be revealed in a couple episodes. But
and also the other character, Ellie.
Quick? Yeah. Oh, you want me to say it?
Go ahead.
Like, I mean, I don't want to spoilers in case you like view this as a spoiler.
Well, it's all over the internet.
But Ellie's literally gay. Ellie,
yes.
Like the little girl, the character, like she's been gay for 10 years, since 2013. Literally, the DLC to The Last of Us, which is like an extra level mission that they do after, is like Joel's hurt, and like that might happen this season. We'll see. And it's like it's the middle of the story. They take a DLC. It's not like after the main story. They literally do a mission that you to play as Ellie when like Joel's out of action, and it bounces back and forth between Ellie, like just literally in the mall that we've already heard about with.
Right.
We're all gonna see.
Don't get too into it.
I'm not getting too into it. But like either way, like there's an entire DLC that like talks about it, where like the entire point of it is like her sexuality or like her like that's not the point, but the big reveal of that DLC is it, and like and in the sequel games, which is popular, like they very much go into it even more. So like this,
let me
idea that
take
it's
it.
being like because again, the idea that it's an agenda means they're applying something that wasn't already there to something.
Right, if you want to complain,
you fucking troglodyte.
If you want to, and I've said before, I've complained like if you've got a character that's already established, James Bond,
which even
and you
always,
decide that we're
like,
going to make James Bond a woman, my argument on the podcast for these types of things has always been, then just create a new character.
Yeah.
But that's not what they're doing here. They're not creating a new character, changing the arc of an existing character. They just created characters. They took characters that are already established by the game's creator.
Also, if the
game's creator's involved in this.
If you see like a person of color or like a gay character or like or women doing something like that a woman in your mind shouldn't be doing, and you think it's like someone trying to shove their agenda down your throat, then like no, you're the one with the fucking agenda because you don't want to see it. Like you want to be seen showing something else. Right. Like so everyone has a fucking agenda. You little idiot.
Here's my point. Like, all right, we won't go crazy on it, but my point. Again,
I'm not talking to anyone in particular.
I know what you mean, but my point is, if you don't like it, then just turn it off.
Oh, so you're watching HBO?
It's HBO.
Like you're on HBO.
You don't
like,
have
what the fuck are these idiots?
You don't have to watch this.
It's like,
it's not something.
HBO is trying to indict. It's like, have you not watched like any of Game of Thrones or The Sopranos or any show on Game of HBO?
It's all storytelling.
Ever put out? HBO's never been a network for like if you have like this conservative mindset. Like it's not exactly the place for you to go watch.
It's the funniest
thing. And like The Last of Us isn't a game that appeals to those values at all either.
Well, let me take it from a completely different point. I'm going to take it from, again, back to the Star Wars.
This isn't The Walking Dead.
The Star Trek universe. Like, people do this with the Star Trek universe all the time with Discovery because it's all women and blah, 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 and all they do is cry and blah, blah, blah. And there's, like, all that weird stuff. And it's not a huge part of it.
Yeah.
But the really thing is they just don't like the new stuff. They don't like any of the new stuff. They didn't like Picard. They don't like any of the new stuff. They kind of like the new Captain Pike show. But in general, they don't like the new stuff. So my thing is, then don't watch it.
Yeah.
Don't watch it. You don't have to watch it. No one's holding a gun or a phaser to your head.
That was like, I was watching it with my kids. I was like, you were watching Last of Us with your kids?
I mean,
like, what are you talking about?
Like, what are you doing?
It's like the one girl died in the first episode. She got shot in the gut and like literally bled out. Like when her father's arms.
I think I'd be much more offended if you were 4 or 5 and it was the stabbing of like the woman eating her granddaughter or whatever. The grandmother eating.
Like Bill someone on fire in this episode. Like they literally murdered a baby and like they alluded to the murder of a baby and like her mother because they didn't have room in a camp for them. Yeah. Like that was literally what they alluded. And the worst thing the worst thing my children could have seen was they being indoctrinated.
Now that we've kind of done we did our soapbox. We don't and if anyone's offended by the soapbox.
But the actual episode itself.
If anybody's offended,
let
me finish my point.
Sure, there you go.
If anybody's that offended by the way that we never do this on the podcast, right?
Well, occasionally.
We don't, but usually we steer away from it.
We don't do this every episode.
This is an example of something that I just felt too strongly about, and I know you did as well, that I wanted to say what I had to say.
And this is a very vocal minority.
And if you're mad at us, I'm sorry. I promise we won't do this every episode. We're not changing the tone of our podcast, but I think you and I are of an opinion, agreed opinion here, that this is something that I felt we needed to say. And now, anything else you got before we just kind of talk about a couple of the other cool moments of the episode?
I mean, the episode itself, like, here's the thing, like...
It's an incredible episode.
It's very, like, if you... Again, you have to have, unfortunately, I will say it, like, I don't want to be too harsh, but you have to have a lot of hate in your heart of, like, just people for existing in a way that you don't seem to, like, agree with. You have to have a lot of hate to not, like, get a little bit emotional at this episode. Like, there's very human things in this episode, and I guess if you can't like comprehend like the idea of like two men having love for each other, like I don't know what to tell you, but like it's very like there's nothing in this episode that isn't human, like that doesn't feel very raw, that doesn't appeal to anyone. I'm straight, like these two the love these men shared like appealed to me, I could relate to it.
When he gives the speech that like
I've
that
had
was
love
his
for people,
when he talks about that was his purpose, that he had been planning for the apocalypse, like in his mind, and that he was able to save one life, and that was his purpose. Which was that's an amazing or that love can change like a really, really jaded,
deeply like troubled, obviously person. Like he's not a great
he's not a
very
good
troubled dude.
He wasn't a good person for most of his life. So this was
he doesn't claim to be either. He's like Joel. He says and Joel's not like they don't like portray Joel in this show as like a great person either.
No,
and Ellie isn't like some of the things Ellie's done aren't exactly like the most like of like sound mind.
So that's
you know
why I
mean?
kind of like the fact that we got somebody that within
like morality is like
that
very
the
much at the
morality
center of
that
this
these two
story.
people's morality together, regardless of what their genders were, was just some really like people trying to just make their way in this terrible
Like,
thing.
like the idea of like that line, like I was never afraid before you. Like anyone could relate to that. Like it doesn't matter the gender. You can relate to a fucking dog.
Right.
It can relate to like anyone's a significant other or your child.
Well,
like
that's-
it can relate to it's just basic love. Like it's just
Anybody can be brave if you have nothing to lose.
Yeah, love. This, it's
know?
a very deep idea. It's a long, like, established, long explored idea that love is the ultimate. Like, love leads to hate. Like, love, the fear of losing love or losing the thing you love leads to like over the top reactions and leads to like not thinking straight. It's a Jedi. Like multiple villains over the years, like Magneto, like many greatly established things, and that's no different than The Last of Us. The Last of Us is very much about that, like in a lot of ways.
Well, and we've talked about it before, like that. When you think about the concept of sci-fi in general, and I would throw this into sci-fi because I don't know where else to put it.
Yeah, it's close enough.
That
Post-apocalypse sci-fi.
right,
sure.
but it's sci-fi.
Yeah,
with
the zombie type. Yeah,
it's science fiction. It's fiction and it's scientifically based. So I guess you could everything's
it's
fiction.
Close. Hey, I don't know where apocalypse. Apocalypse is almost its own weird little like niche.
I would
say it's closest to science fiction.
I would say we would throw this into the alternative. Anytime you get into alternative universes and stuff, it's
dramatic
science fiction.
Yeah.
So it's dramatic fiction
with
or whatever.
Twinge.
But anytime you do these types of stories, they are supposed to be an analogy to what our world's really like.
Yeah.
And that's whether it was Star Trek, whether what Star Wars tried to do with some terrible exampest.
Yeah, just because you can't see the thing it's referencing,
and some
because you're
good
too stupid, doesn't mean it's not there.
Sci-fi and fiction is best. And these types of stories,
to be fair, there's a long history
just
of people,
outside of what reality looks like.
To be fair, there's a long history of people misconstruing sci-fi.
Oh yeah,
and the political messages that sci-fi is trying to send.
Yeah, because usually have to hide it or whatever. So
it's not even that hidden usually.
So,
people just are really bad at interpreting things.
Outside of that, just talk about anything about the episode.
Is
anything in the episode specifically? Like I really liked.
Just like the scenes between them.
So
literally.
Yeah.
Like Joel and Ellie are really good in this. Then the bits that we get of them as well.
Yeah.
They're in for 27 minutes.
I like that the episode. I like the way the episode started off.
Yeah.
And where it was going, and then he was trying to like be protective of her, like when he was like, well, I don't think there's something up there you shouldn't see. And then she was like, well, I want to see it. And then she sees it, and we see this like, although they just killed people.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they couldn't save everybody.
Also, he's starting to like her a bit.
They didn't want to, like, yeah, there was a thing there where he definitely starting to like her a little bit.
Also, like...
And even that, they did that weird thing that nobody even thinks about, the whole section of the scene when they're in, like, the convenience store.
Yeah.
And she's in the...
That's really good, too.
And she sees the thing,
she kills her, I think that's probably her killing her first, like,
yeah,
like zombie as well or whatever.
I guess I'm not sure.
He's crushed the rubble. So
I mean, like that whole thing and that, and
she
that
found,
leads
like, even
to
like the idea of like the little tweak of like, oh, she found like what's it called?
Tampons.
Yeah, which would be like, oh yeah, that'd be fucking really like important to women in like the apocalypse.
Right.
And it's probably not too much.
No, and I kind of liked that at parts of the episode, just kind of like I always like that kind of at parts of the episode,
like the cache of weapons that he had hidden in like a certain place.
Because then again, it reminds me
smuggler. Like it makes him feel like a lived-in
and it
smuggler.
reminds me of like the video game concept too. That like the video that you're finding things in boxes.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
I feel like
there's literally rooms in Last of Us where you loot up on weapons and ammo and stuff,
right.
and that Bill's room in the basement looked like one of those almost.
When we got to Bill, when we got to that thing where they flashed back to him and they were going around door to door and they were knocking.
Changed where they're doing a flashback every episode. Like,
yeah, I like that aspect of how it's part of the story.
This one was
and
long,
and we thought that it was just going to be. We didn't realize it was going to be the rest of the episode.
Yeah, like they told the whole story like in the middle of the episode.
Right,
like,
and then obviously it timed
like,
itself
capped
up
off on both sides.
It timed itself up to the end of the episode, so it was no longer a flashback, which is brilliant storytelling.
Yeah.
That we saw the passage of time. But I really like the way that we saw that Bill kind of had made his way.
Yeah.
Based on being that prepper or whatever I think he referred to himself as.
Yeah,
I liked that whole bit of the thing before that what was the guy's name? Frank showed
Oh,
up.
like his setup? Yeah, that was really
like
cool.
I thought that was really good when he was in a basement within the basement.
With the video cameras and the whole fence.
The video
turning
cameras.
the gas on.
And going to
like,
Home Depot. And like, because everybody else was gone, so he could just go and
yeah,
get
that was
the
all
things.
really, really well done.
I thought it was incredibly well done. And then
he seemed to be in a rather like
even
rural
the thing
area,
when they were doing the radio and they were talking on the and Frank was talking on the radio and he goes, "Oh, we made friends." So like friends, and then it turned out to be
I just
Joel
love how like
and what's
I just think
her
with
face.
the love story
I thought
aspect
that
of it.
but all the other parts of it were also
No, yeah, everything was good.
Everything
like,
was
I don't
good. It
have
wasn't
any-
just that.
There was no wasted time in this episode.
It wasn't just like that was the only
there was
point
no
of the
scene
story.
that was out of place or like went too long. Like almost
Well, even like when he gets shot,
I mean, the
because like
parallels
the
when
people are trying to break into the encampment.
when he makes the same dinner for him, like when they first met,
yeah,
which that scene of
incredibly
them
good
of two
storytelling.
people that are like
Yeah.
of Bill, who's like obviously like an incredibly like he's alive, sure, but like he's been alone for 4 years,
Right.
Like and there's this guy comes in and but if he like I imagine they were both gay, or at least like before this, I would imagine, and
Well, it sounds well.
and like
clearly,
I imagine like even finding like a gay partner in the apocalypse.
Well, yeah, like-
and again like there are Nazis like that are in charge of these like camps. I don't exactly know what like the laws are, and so he's like I don't know exactly what's being enforced in these places. I don't know.
Let's
but,
not get in any of that.
But you know what I mean? Like it's like
I don't want it to be. I don't want to get involved.
that was a good line too. When they was like when they were when they did the first
Oh, yeah,
time
yeah,
jump,
yeah.
and he's like, it's like you think 9/11 was a like inside job and the government's all Nazis. So like the government is all Nazis.
Well, they
He's
are
like,
now.
he's like, well, yeah, well now.
Not then. I just thought that interaction
No, they were so good,
of a
like-
couple. I don't care what kind of couple.
Yeah,
it
they
is,
did
They
all
would
the
they would
yes.
fight. They would do love. They would fight. They'd
Like
be
sexuality,
mad.
love,
like all of it,
fighting, like-
just aging.
Just aging, taking care of
caring
one
for
another. Yes.
caring for someone that you love that's dying. Like how hard
And
that
they
is.
would, and they would do certain things like the visuals they would use, also the music they used, like that one song, which was in Arrival.
The
like
Linda Ronstadt
the
song.
Yes, exactly. That song was like killing me
Yeah,
when they were
and
playing
song
that shit like at the end.
And then pros that 90%.
Also, that like the way they went out
and
was
to be
so
honest,
devastating. I'm
and
like,
to
oh
be
my
honest,
god.
I don't think we're in like some tiny minority.
No, we're in the majority.
90%.
Most people think this.
90% of the people. Just look at how many people downloaded the Linda Ronstadt song off of iTunes,
exactly.
or Apple Music's not iTunes
again-
anymore. But like
again-
that song was that thing. Like it did like a what's it called? It did a Stranger Things thing where the song is suddenly there's a whole generation of younger people who know Linda
No, I'm not
Ronstadt.
saying like half of the people that watched this show, this episode, like had this like horrible reaction to it. I think most people, even people that maybe are a little bit like even slightly prejudiced or whatever, like probably saw them and was like, oh, I think this episode was so good, it probably could have like literally changed people's minds. I literally think on like the concept of like if you were a person who like is, I don't know, against whatever it is for whatever religion,
Right.
your own personal thing, whatever. Like, but either way, like I think that most people, like who if they're really like being honest with themselves and aren't like they can just watch that and watch two people interact. Like they go through like all the like.
Right.
And they do it in such a short amount of time. Is like what's
Right.
impressive. It's
No,
like,
that's why
you know
I'm-
how hard it is to tell a self-contained episode. And that's the thing. One of my things when you do a self-contained episode in like a larger show.
Yeah, if
that's
you
like
can-
really good. I love
Yeah, I
that shit.
agree.
That's why I love like that Westworld season 2 episode with like the guy's a Native American. Like when he figures out
that's
that
a
he's a
good
host.
analogy.
I love
That's a good
episodes
analogy.
when they're like when
And I
they go on a
mentioned that
detour.
Star Trek Next
like,
Generation
again,
episode.
it is weird that we have this big detour like in the episode 3. Like it's a weird spot maybe, but like it
I
doesn't.
don't know because it's not like he's a major
But
character
it's
in the
fitting-
video game.
I mean, he gets a whole mission in the video game though that he's there for, and like he doesn't have any less screen time in this than he had in the game.
We might
So,
get
like,
him back in a flashback.
Maybe you never know. Like we've seen tests
Because
in
the
a
way they do
flashback.
it,
So
there's no reason we couldn't get him back in a flashback where that mission is a flashback episode that leads to something
well,
else.
I think
that they're
even
doing.
if you, there are some people that also just that are game fans that really like that mission as well. And there's like a really cool like even like fight sequence against one of the more high level
Right.
zombies that obviously wasn't in this because the whole mission that you go on in that doesn't exist in this version. But I imagine that
least
they're
not yet.
but we've seen the trailer for the next episode and you get a little ambush or whatever like in it. And I imagine that there's plenty of time in that episode to just incorporate a lot of the more zombie-ish elements that were in the.
So
I imagine they can even take stuff that was in that last mission that people liked and you probably put it in somewhere else and have with the same effect. We'll see
And
though.
I saw something online and I was confused about this.
Yeah, sure.
So is there something that is there something with the game that's been delayed? Is a game being released? There's supposed to be a game version that was supposed to be coming out. And they delayed it.
Don't know if there's a. Well, there's only 2 Last of Us games. There's Last of Us season. Well, there's Last of Us which came out in 2013.
Season 2's already out.
And there's I don't know or Part
game.
2 I think it's called.
Part 2.
And that came out in like 2019. But again, that game took like 6-7 years.
I'm pretty sure I saw something online that
I don't know if there's a season. I don't know if there's a Part 3 or not. I have no idea if that's being developed.
If there was a Part 3, that they're delaying the game because they don't want it to mess up the show.
I think that would make sense. They're doing a Game of Thrones thing, like where like they're gonna by the time the show's like that game, I know for a fact will not be done by the time they do all the HBO adaptation of like what they have.
Okay.
Like just given like how much goes into like Last of Us and like the studio spends years making shit.
Do we have any indication how many seasons of this they're planning on doing?
Given the pace, the first game seems to be. And again, I haven't played the second game just because I haven't ever got around to it. I know bits and pieces of it. But the first game seemingly is going to be fully adapted this season. It seems like we're at the pace we're going. I think so. I could be wrong unless they extend a lot of things. Like
I don't think we're getting like 5 episodes, 5 seasons of this show. I think we're getting like 2-3 seasons.
No, but yeah, they said like Last of Us Part 2 though. They said they might have to split into 2 seasons.
Sure.
I don't know. Like again, I don't know if that story's
longer. I don't think we're getting.
I'm not sure.
We're not getting like 7-10 seasons of this.
No, that's not what this story is.
I just don't think that they're going to keep Pedro Pascal for that many years.
To be fair, I think Pedro's more into this than he is Demando because he gets to show his face. So
yeah, but I don't know.
I think
he's got other things.
He's not even on like the set for Mando all the time.
But he's doing
anymore,
a lot of other things too.
Yeah.
So, but I just don't think. All right, what else you got? Anything else?
I'm trying to think of the episode if there's anything else in it.
Just in general, nothing else. All right, well we're at 90 minutes.
I think that's we're at
90.
I think that's probably good enough
let's
for
wrap
the day.
It up. Thank you for watching
or listening or whatever.
Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed our take on all of this stuff, and you can. I respect.
Sorry if I was a little aggressive today.
No, I think you were passionate. I don't think you were aggressive. You were passionate, and
that's
I feel like
we're
allowed to be. It's our podcast, and if you don't like our podcast, you don't have to listen.
And maybe I'm being a little harsh on DC. I feel like I'm being a little harsh on Gunn, but like I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're worse on James Gunn than you were on.
I just feel like this didn't do anything to help them.
You were definitely worse on James Gunn than you were on the people that watch Last of Us.
Well, I don't know. I was doing it longer.
I'm kidding.
So I don't think that's true. I called one of them. I called the people a troglodyte.
I'm going to Google that as soon as we get done.
It's not a fun word. I've been using that word too much.
Troglodyte.
That's not what I said.
I know.
That's not what I said.
All right. Thank you for watching and listening, and we will be back next week with some more stuff.
Take care.
Take care.